You're listening to the DCAU Review, hosted by Cal and Liam, streaming on iTunes, Google Podcasts, and at DCAUreview.com. Now, here's today's episode.
Hey everybody, welcome to the DCAU Review. I am your host, Cal, and alongside me, as always, my good brother, via satellite, and the DCAU Twitter guru. I can't even say it this week. I'm so exhausted.
39 episodes.
I can't get it right. The DCAU Review Twitter guru, Liam.
There you go.
Liam, welcome to episode 40 of DCAU Review.
Yeah, we've got an interesting one to talk today. It's got some connections to the original Batman, the animated series, and also there will be some follow-up from last week's episode on what doesn't happen in this episode. So it's certainly an interesting one as we continue through Batman Beyond for this month of February.
Yeah. So this episode, of course, is called Winning Edge. Or is it The Winning Edge or Winning Edge?
The Winning Edge.
Okay, The Winning Edge. Pardon me. So The Winning Edge. And you're right. There is some cool little tie back to the original Batman animated series. You get a cameo, albeit brief, from one of the original Batman Rogues Gallery. One of the first that we actually see here. There's some allusions, of course, via the Jokers, but this is really your first appearance of one of the original Batman Rogues,
Freeze, of course.
Well, yeah, that's a glaring omission on my part, but yeah. So I guess you could totally say that what I just said was completely false.
One of the first
appearances, and we don't get too many of them. Obviously, we have the movie built around the Joker, and then you had the Mr. Freeze episode, but you don't get too many other strong cameos from Batman Rogues. I think we talked about it when we did the first episode, was that I think it's on one of the commentaries, Bruce Timm made it clear that they just didn't want to do every villain beyond.
Yeah.
They didn't want to copy and paste the Batman Rogues and put them in the future. So it's interesting. We get to see a little bit of Bane in this episode. So Liam, I guess we can jump into plot. So your plot is it's a very Spider-Man.
It's a very special episode.
Yeah, it's a very, very Spider-Man teen angst, teen issue revolving around the high school drug use, I guess.
Yes.
And performance-enhancing drugs, PEDs. Involves high school. I don't even know did they ever name that sport that they're playing?
The air tube kind of hockey football thing.
It's like zero gravity hockey football mixed with like like rugby or badminton, not badminton. Cricket, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but they never really say what the sport is, but it's So it's made very obvious early on that the coach really doesn't care about anything except winning. Your typical high school cliched sports coach that just cares about winning.
The coach just slaps a kid in front of everybody at one point.
Yeah, there's a couple things in this episode that kind of left me scratching my head when it came to the coach, including why does he dress up in like a full uniform at one point?
Why was he just walking around in the locker room?
Yeah, there's a scene where he fights Batman, and he was wearing walking around the locker room wearing full uniform pads.
Yeah, it's sort of like imagining like Bill Belichick walking around the Patriots locker room in pads and a helmet and
right,
like ready to throw footballs at somebody if he comes across them. It doesn't quite add up.
What is going on here with this guy? What's this guy's story? The coach creeped me out. I'm not sure. I think he was sort of like, I sort of felt like he was put in there to be a red herring of some sort.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they didn't really dwell on his character enough to make you ever really think that he was responsible. It was very quickly you realized that the person that was using and getting the drugs was, the student, and he was picking him up from some guy in a car. So why, if it was the coach, then why wouldn't the coach just hand? I don't know. I felt like he was a red herring there that was just set up, but it wasn't done very well. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I overall I did like the plot. I think it's kind of a simple story, simple enough anyway. Of Terry is aware of this epidemic of slappers, this steroid made out of venom, and so he goes on to investigate. I like seeing Terry get to be a little bit more of a detective on his own again this week, and then he sort of comes across these thugs who are breaking into an electronics store. He realizes that one of the thugs is this kid Mason, because one of the other students just shouts his name.
They're not professional crooks, clearly. They didn't go to the school that taught you not to shout the name of the person that's on your crew.
And to be fair, they do a pretty good job of implying these kids are very desperate to get this money, to get these slappers. So so that's part of, you're right, they are amateurs, and then from there he investigates Bane. He discovers that Bane is sort of in some sort of assisted living place. He's on a respirator. He's not moving. He's not even responsive. And so they're all kind of left scratching their heads. Bruce and Terry are sort of left scratching their heads as to who is behind this. And then, of course, it turns out to be Bane's helper, like male nurse, I guess.
He doesn't even get a name. That was something that annoyed me.
Allegedly, it's Jackson Chapel, according to IMDb, but I don't remember them ever saying that name.
I'm pretty sure at the very last scene, Bruce even calls him Bane's assistant. He doesn't even call him. Yeah. He doesn't even call him whatever. That's fine, but as far as I know, he doesn't get a name shout out. He's simply referred to as Bane's assistant or Bane's doctor or whatever.
Yeah, and there's also like a little subplot of Terry is coming home late a lot because of his Batman adventures, and his mother is getting suspicious. And then his mother finds these slappers in his bag and thinks he's using drugs. So you have that subplot of him not being able to just come out and say, "I'm not using drugs, I'm just Batman."
Right.
So there's some interesting little intrigue. And I kind of wish, we've talked about this with a few different plot elements of Beyond, that they had maybe let that play out a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I think that's a little more interesting, because Mary McGinnis, his mom, is sort of the stand-in for like the Aunt May. Whereas in Spider-Man, Aunt May is kind of oblivious to it all, or is most in the original portrayals, it's just like a sweet old lady.
Right.
Whereas this, seeing that Terry's mom is like very active and is worried about him, and it's like, if all she knows is that her son is, getting all of these demerits and is failing tests and looks tired all the time, it's like she's concerned, she's active, and just having sort of Bruce show up at the end to sort of magic it all away, I thought was maybe a little bit of a missed opportunity to not sort of further that storyline.
That's fair. I would not disagree with that. I think that wrapping it up and making it, putting a nice little bow on the end of it, did seem to cheapen things a little bit and to eliminate that tension. I think you're right. I think if you carry that over for a couple episodes, maybe not the idea that she thinks he's doing drugs, but the idea that maybe she's just suspicious, or there's not a lot of explanation for the things that are happening, his behaviors and all that. And I think that's fair. So what did you end up giving the episode as a score?
Yeah, overall I still thought it was really strong. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I think it's good. It's succinct. It's sort of punctuated by a couple of fun little Batman fight scenes throughout the episode, so you get your dose of action. And I think overall it's pretty strong, and I liked that sort of, like, as I mentioned, the trouble at home side of being a teenage Batman, I think is a pretty interesting little story beat.
Cool, yeah.
What about you?
I gave it 6 out of 10. Very different.
Very.
Completely different. I think there's There's a lot in this episode that does work. I think for the type of episode that they had to write or that they wrote, which is interesting because it's as an adult or as a teenager, you're able to relate to this storyline, and they're addressing an issue that's sort of evergreen in, as far as like teens using drugs, whether it's PEDs or whether it's drugs, actual drugs. It's sort of a relevant topic whenever. I think the thing that doesn't work for me was the fact that they just decided to make this guy that was Bane's assistant the villain. It didn't make, there wasn't any tension that built up in it. The reveal didn't really shock anybody or it really didn't even make any sense. It's like this character shows up, in the middle of the second act, and then it's revealed, at the very beginning of the third act that he's the guy that's running the business. It's like, oh, right. Am I supposed to be shocked or surprised by that?
And as you mentioned, once the coach is pretty early on eliminated as a suspect, so right. If he's not the guy, almost by process of elimination, you realize either it has to just be a no-name who we've not met yet, or it's the one other guy they've introduced that's an adult.
Right. Right. And I think it was nice to have a nod to Bane in there, but it was almost, and I appreciate it and I'm glad that they did it, but it was almost unnecessary because it could have just been anybody, because it was just anybody that was
right,
that was doing it, like somebody, and they tried to shoehorn it. Oh well, he got the formula from Bane at some point because Bane needed somebody else to be able to administer it to him so that he could live or something like that. But it really didn't have much of an impact. And the guy looks ridiculous, especially in the final scene. I guess we'll talk about that in visuals, but
yeah.
Because
one
of that,
thing to mention in plot before
sure.
we move on, though.
Sure.
So we mentioned last week the entire episode revolves around Terry breaking up with Dana. He has this tryst with Melanie Walker, aka 10. Melanie goes to jail at the end. This week, Dana, Terry, just back together. No mention.
No harm, no foul.
and Terry falls asleep on their date. And she's just like, okay, well, I'll see you tomorrow. I was like, man, Dana needs to have more respect for herself.
Hashtag Dana deserves better. That's true. That's my.
I
that's
do literally
my hashtag.
have that written in all caps in my notes. By the way, Dana deserves better.
She's so much better. What the heck? Seriously, Terry, the jerk. Yeah, or just tell her you're Batman, dude. Like,
right.
or break up, just break up with her. Like, don't be the douche boyfriend that has to string her along for your selfish purposes, man. Come on. Yeah, seriously. Yeah, very very valid point though. So yeah, you good with plot?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, let's move on. So let's talk about music. I thought music was pretty strong in this episode overall. I think the parts that I noticed the most, I noticed that they had started using the main Batman Beyond theme more in the notes during the show, I guess. A lot of that is used to punctuate some of the scenes, a la Batman the Animated Series with the main Batman theme, or Superman the Animated Series. I think we had commented on that at some point, that we weren't sure how often that was going to be worked in and whether or not that was something that we would notice. I don't think we did notice it for the first couple episodes, maybe here or there. But it really seemed to come through on this episode.
Yeah.
I think there's some good music that punctuates the scene between Terry fighting the coach. There's some good, of course, some good music when he's actually investigating and he first runs into Bane. There's some good sort of high intensity. Really brings the emotion, the intensity of, is he going to stumble into Bane as an old, crazy, jacked old man?
Right.
So
it maybe would have been cooler, honestly.
Probably. It probably would have been then his Merce being being the mastermind behind it. But
yeah,
whatever. Beggars can't be choosers, I guess.
Sure.
So I gave it a strong 7 out of 10 for music. What about you?
Yeah, I give it a very different 6 out of 10. Thought it was really good. I liked that, and we've mentioned it before, there's sort of a recurring sort of frantic like really hard rock theme that punctuates a lot of the fight scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it specifically worked in this fight, and we'll get to it a little bit more in visuals. But that fight, the final fight, really feels like more of a brawl than a lot of superhero cartoons or comic books usually are.
Yeah.
And I liked that a lot, and I thought the music's really like frantic, almost like it almost gets to like a speed metal type feel, as it's just like the tempo just keeps ramping up and keeps building and building as Terry's getting kind of in more and more mortal danger. So, yeah, I think it's strong. I think 6 out of 10 is a solid score.
Nice. All right. Well, let us move on to animation and visuals. Anything stick out to you from this episode?
I mean, obviously the big thing is the physical changes that everybody goes through when they start using the slappers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're pretty good at showing Mason, the student who's also the ringleader of the thieves. He's his shoulders are slouched. He's got bags under his eyes, and then he puts the slappers on, and you see his veins bulge out, and his arms get bigger, and he sort of stands up tall, stands up straight, and he's more of a physical threat at that point, both in the air, zero grab hockey football, and in the fight scene with Terry. So
official name, by the way, it's really catchy.
I mean, it must be a big deal because like it's played in a high school, right?
Right. Yeah, they're not
just replace like lacrosse or something.
Maybe.
But anyway, I did like the visuals of the way the slappers worked. As you mentioned, the Merce at the end, he does get into the more sort of cartoony. He almost looks like a Caucasian Hulk or something by the end.
Yeah, I was thinking like, I don't know, like a Family Guy type style animation. Just big, huge upper body, and his eyeballs get real big and weird looking, or maybe even like a Teen Titans Go villain. Like, yeah. He looks ridiculous, and he's got that stupid goatee, and like his hair's slicked back, and he's wearing like a wife beater, but like no gloves or anything. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I didn't love his visuals.
Yeah, that's fair. Oh, and as I mentioned with music, I did really enjoy the final fight though, and I like the way they have Terry fight. Is he's not doing a lot of like judo throws or fancy moves. It's a lot of like punching, kicking. He throws a headbutt at one point.
Mm-hmm.
He's very much like, I mean, we've established almost from episode 1 that, yeah, Terry's a tough kid, and obviously the suit enhances his agility and his strength, but he's still, a teenager who is, relatively new to this. So I liked the idea that he kind of gets his butt kicked a little bit, and when he has someone or has a foe that can match him kind of punch for punch, he's a little outmatched for a while, and he doesn't quite know how to go about how to stop him at first. He kind of like grabs like a metal pole, and the guy just kind of smacks that out of his hand, and they sort of brawl a little bit more, and then he like throws chemicals into his face, and there's an explosion and all that to finish him off. But I kind of, as weird as that sounds, I like seeing that Terry kind of gets his butt kicked. I think if there's a complaint about modern Batman comics in general, it's that sometimes the Bruce Wayne Batman feels maybe a little too perfect or a little too OP, as it were. And so to see a Batman here who is obviously still very capable and very tough and very courageous, but still he's got to work at it because, 1, he's new to it, and 2, he's facing foes that are, are able to match him either in strength or brutality or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, that's a valid point. I think that's fair. Can we talk about the weird part where the guy, the Merce, ends up falling on the conveyor belt full of slappers, and he sort of like lets out this agonizing scream and gets even bigger. Like he's like fighting. He's got the slapper still attached to his skin. He's like,
yes,
it's weird. Also, apparently, slappers work through clothing because he's like got him stuck on his wife beater and stuff.
His shirt is so tight. That the slappers he's still able to absorb slappers through his shirt.
That's crazy. Yeah. My score for animation, I didn't hate anything other than the Merce character design. I didn't necessarily. I hate's a strong word. I didn't like his design. How about that?
That's fair. And also, I mean, we've talked about this before. When you're coming off some of the episodes we've already watched with characters like Blight or Shriek or Ink, and then you just have a jacked up dude with big googly eyes in a tank top, it's kind of a letdown.
Yeah, exactly. And like you didn't really do any. Like even something as simple as, and I get it, they're amateur thieves, but the guys from the school that are stealing the stuff so that they can get more slappers are wearing the same outfits they wear to school the next day, just with ski masks. Like these guys aren't smart enough to realize that, hey, maybe you shouldn't wear your school jacket to break into the electronics place tonight. Like, that was. I mean, I'm not asking them to have matching, jumpsuits or something like that, like they're a real gang. But just
if it could have at least been like less descript clothing. Yeah, like if they were wearing like t-shirts and jeans, maybe. Sure. But they're wearing these like big oversized, as you mentioned, like this red and gray jacket or whatever. It's pretty noticeable. We don't see anybody else wearing a jacket except for Mason in this episode.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Guess what? Guess how quickly did it take, or how quick did Batman point that one out? Didn't take the world's greatest detective to figure that out. Oh, it's Mason. He's also wearing Mason's jacket. But you're right. There wasn't anything that stood out to me as far as like designs in this episode. There wasn't anything that was really unique. I mean, it was interesting to see Bane sitting in a hospital chair, I guess. But even that, like, it's, you get a quick shot of him and then that's it. So I gave animation 6 out of 10. I didn't think there was nothing offensive, but it didn't do anything necessarily to blow me away. I felt like, and I don't know what they would have done differently, but it was just kind of middle of the road. What about you?
Yeah, and in this case, I think it's almost like that's like an intersection of the plot and the visuals. Like maybe even if Bane isn't the guy who has the final fight, if he had sort of been still conscious and he was like the old Godfather type, still trying to run his old empire, his old Venom empire from, when he's a few years before the grave, and then he has some like really loyal, henchmen, that could have maybe been a little more interesting. But yeah, as it is, it's just some kind of generic thugs and then Merce, the tank top Merce. Correct.
Mercy tank top, I think.
Anyway, I gave visuals a 6 out of 10. So
6 out of 10 as well. Very
solid. I would say, solid, leaning towards good, but nothing that's blowing my mind either.
Agreed. All right. Last but not least, Liam, let us head to our voice actors. Anybody in particular that we need to notate this week besides our standard Kevin Conroy and Will Friedle?
Well, we have from Beverly Hills 90210, and I did check, that is the show he was on this time. I'm not mistaking it for Melrose Place or one of those other ones. Ian Ziering plays Mason in this episode.
Okay.
Also known as the lead in they've made like 8 Sharknadoes now, I think. Okay. He's the lead along with the legendary Tara Reid in those movies. So
okay.
So he's the male Sharknado lead.
Gotcha.
And then aside from that, we have Larry Drake as the Merce, who didn't have a lot of interesting stuff in his background. I will mention the Coach Krieger, played by Peter Jason, which I only mentioned because he was in the movie They Live, which of course starred one Rowdy Roddy Piper. So, anytime I get to mention the pro wrestling aspect of my life, my fandoms, I'm gonna take it. But yeah, I think the big time players, or the ones that do the heavy lifting in this episode, are definitely Misters Conroy and Friedle, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked that even though I think we both disagreed with them kind of putting an end to the tension between Terry and his mom at the end of the episode. I do like that Bruce comes in and is able to kind of set things straight, and really he saves the day because okay, one thing that I didn't mention during plot, you gotta love that Bruce is like pissed off at a 17-year-old kid for like being tired.
Yes.
He's like, what? This is too hard for you. You're out too late. Bruce, he's a 17-year-old kid, and Bruce doesn't care about his grades in high school either. It's like, well, you just have to be Batman. Like,
well, it's like
come
last
on, Bruce.
week when he's complaining to him about Dana breaking up, and he's like, "You'll be back together next week." Which, I mean, to be fair, he was right, but we didn't know that at the time.
Bruce has zero compassion for Terry.
It's true. I think there's literally an episode later where he says none of the Robins ever complained about stuff like this.
Oh man, yeah. Except none of the Robins are even around anymore, and one of them.
Right. What does that tell you?
What does that tell you? Spoiler alert. Yeah. Okay. All right. So those are most of the heavy lifting is done by Terry and Bruce, and I think Terry is Will Friedle is good in this episode. I think he has some chops to show off, some muscles to flex, as it were. I think he does a good job. He carries most of the episode. You get the Terry Batman voice. I don't think we've talked about the Terry Batman voice yet, have we?
Not really, no. It is there. It's more in the vein of like the before it got really silly in Dark Knight. Like it's a little gravelly, like the Christian Bale voice, where he's deepening it and putting a little gravel to it, but it's not quite so cartoony like that one.
Right. Agreed. Yeah, it's I like it. It it's a good way. Believable. He's disguising his voice. He's still a 17-year-old kid, so he needs to make sure that he do whatever he can to try and intimidate the villains, as it were. So, good job by Mr. Friedle in this episode. With that said, everybody else is just kind of, it's all right. Like, and Kevin Conroy's fine. Like, they don't ask too much of him. So for that reason, I gave voice acting a 6 out of 10.
And I gave it a very different 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10.
Yeah, I thought, like you mentioned, Will and Kevin did a great job, and Terry Garner as Terry's mom, I thought did a solid job. Nothing too great that I can add to that. I do think, as you mentioned, Terry's got to play, or Will Friedle's got to play, like concerned student Terry. He's got to play like exhausted guy. He's got to play like defensive, like, no, those aren't my drugs.
Right.
Teenager, and then he's got to play, as you mentioned, he has to do the Batman voice. So definitely letting him utilize some of his varying acting abilities there. So yeah, he's definitely the strongest part of it, no doubt.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that I've been impressed so far. Because I think, it's looking at these, as we always say, with a critical eye. Sometimes it's easy to fall into the nostalgia trap and the fact that we love these cartoons so much.
When comparing it to Lauren Lester's performance in Fear of Victory, for instance.
Man, are we going to come up with a Fear of Victory jar, too, to go along with our Underdwellers jar?
I don't know. It's the same. Maybe it's just the same jar. The bad episode
just one jar. The bad episodes jar. We don't talk about these episodes anymore.
Fear of Victory, Brave New Metropolis, none of them. Don't talk about them at
all. Don't even mention them. They're just those episodes now.
Yes.
But yes, I would agree. I think that our experience thus far of Robin is well documented, and we haven't had as bad or a negative experience with Terry as Batman Beyond.
No, even in some of our lower rated episodes like Golem, like one of the issues with that episode is that Terry's not in it very much.
Right.
So yeah, if anything, you're kind of almost always wanting more from him just because he is so good. But yeah, I guess as we're wrapping up here, I'll pose the question to you. Where does this rate as far as like rewatchability goes? Do you think this is an important one to check, or is this one you can kind of skip by?
I think because it has Bane in it. I think because it does, give a little more of the human aspect of Terry, as fleshes out his character, despite the ridiculousness that Dana decides to stay with him, despite him being a jerk. Hashtag Dana deserves better. I think that it's important just for the storyline. It gives you more depth. I mean, I know there are some episodes in the future that deal with Terry's high school life, the ever popular Egg Baby episode.
Oh yeah.
There are certainly more episodes that feature Terry in high school, but it gives like we said, I guess it was last week. We were talking about this is teenage Batman, and thus there needs to be some teenage angst that they throw in there and some realistic teenage storyline. So this is a good way to do that without making it feel like a forced.
It's not. It never feels like a PSA.
Correct. I would agree. I would agree completely. It's not a children and guns don't mix ever. It's it's a good way of addressing a real life topic that like we said, and they do it in a way that is realistic and kind of refreshing. So, I appreciated this episode. So I would say it's not a mandatory see. Now we're getting into qualifying rewatchability. But I would recommend it. Yeah, I would say watch it. It's not a boring episode. It's fun, like you said. Batman's fleshed out, and
you get to hear more of Bruce Timm playing the Joker's leader. By the way,
we didn't even talk about we didn't talk about that in voice acting. Another fine performance by Mr. Timm.
Much
ranks
better
right up
than
there
his
with
performance as the Toy Man in Grey Ghost.
Oh man, you're lucky I don't want to take the time to play the disagreement alarm, because I very well easily could play the disagreement alarm right now. But I digress. Anyway, final scores, Liam. Let's wrap up with our final scores. So, totaling everything up on my end here, I come up with a final score of 25 out of 40.
And I have a very different 26 out of 40.
Just a reminder for the folks at home, we don't compare notes beforehand.
Correct.
We came up with these scores on our own individually. However, we are related.
That's true. So it may be genetic. By the way, can I just tell you, we pull back the curtain a little bit. We record episodes in bunches generally. So we got a lot of blowback on hating Fear of Victory, by the way. So I just want to say it's okay. It's okay to be wrong, like all of the people that tweeted me and said said we were wrong about that episode were. It's okay. It's not a big deal that you were so very wrong about that episode. And Scarecrow's 2 fake mustaches.
The less I say about that, the better. I'm so thankful that anybody took the time to comment and or maybe possibly listen to us grown men talking about a cartoon.
It's not illegal to disagree with us.
That's true. But you are wrong.
But you are wrong.
That episode is trash. Oh, man. All right, Liam. So let us start wrapping things up. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We really do appreciate the fact that you take the time to listen to us. We'd love to hear feedback. We say it every time. Even if you don't agree with us, we'd love to hear feedback from you. So please feel free. Send us your thoughts on this episode, Winning Edge. The Winning Edge. I keep leaving the off, Liam. The Winning Edge. Let us know what your thoughts are. Did you like the episode? What did you think of the Merce character? How did you feel about the introduction of Bane or lack thereof? Tweet Liam. He's the DCAU review Twitter guru. Liam, where can they reach you?
They can reach me specifically, as I am the guru, at DCAU review on Twitter. That's the place where
That's correct.
I do all my tweeting. And by the way, we are still planning to do a giveaway when we hit our 250th follower. We're getting there. We're slowly climbing the mountain. All you have to do to be involved in the drawing for that is every week when we post our new episode on Twitter at DCAU Review, you like that tweet, you retweet it, and you follow us, and boom, you're in it. Once we get to 250, we'll have we'll remind our listeners of the secret word soon. But if you've been listening for a few weeks, you know what the secret word is.
It's Martian.
It's Martian. And once we hit that, we'll ask for the secret word. We'll pick somebody at random to give away the Almost Got Him board game. But definitely.
Yeah, we're super excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so, with that mentioned, we do also have a Facebook page, but we don't use it because
we barely even talk about it anymore because it's bad, man. It's real. It's like worse than the Merce character bad. It's worse than Fear of Victory bad.
It is. You know, I bet Mark Zuckerberg has created some sort of fear toxin in order to win money in sports before.
I bet that guy owns a pair of fake mustaches or so.
He's like, does either of these make me look more like a human being? Which of these fake mustaches?
Oh man, yeah. Don't forget, you can find us, but you will have to seek us out because you will not hear from us due to their pay wall and all that they require. So Find us on Twitter, find us on Facebook if you want to like us. Go ahead, but definitely find us on Twitter. Tweet Liam, and
also head to DCAUreview.com if you stream these episodes rather than download them. You can check out the episodes there. If you're newer to our show, we have it all organized by character, by show, so you can check out. We've done at least one episode on all four of the big main DCAU shows. So if you're looking to navigate and find our archives, that's a good way to do it.
There you go. All right, Liam. So that'll wrap us up for today's episode. I'm Cal.
And I'm Liam.
And we will talk to you on the next episode of the DCAU Review.
Bye-bye.